resilient cities. I think the problem around this is where we relate to other people. I think that's the power of that civic space can have. And our duty is to design inclusive spaces, not only accessible, but inclusive spaces for all segments of our society.
The city of Florence has suffered 60 floods in the recent centuries, but the people of Florence haven't fled, maintaining an extraordinary continuity in architecture, artistic and economic fabric. It was the greatness of the city with its architecture and its history that determined the factor of identity, social cohesion, which are the central foundation of resilient communities.
Hi, my name is Dujin Hwang. I'm an architect from Seoul, Korea. Human beings are extremely resilient, and so are the cities. Whenever we had global pandemics before, cities were evacuated, and people would say things like the end of urban civilization. But cities always came back. We are in the middle of another global pandemic, and this particular one should be an exception. We will survive this. Stay safe and resilient.
Hello from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Resilience is what we have been struggling to regain in this Anthropocene, especially in an urban area where not one corner of it is actually free from human disturbance. But what if we, as the experts of built environments, including landscape architects, engineers, and planners, could make positive human intervention that could actually accelerate the recovery of resilience in cities? So I think resilience should be the common goal of all of us to mitigate many problems we have at this moment.
Hi, welcome to the University of New Mexico, where we define resiliency as people and culture and the acts that we can make in this environment that conserve and utilize the amazing sun that we have 360 days a year. With that, we delight in the ability to use shade and conserve water and purposely have a low impact on our footprint with all materials, and we have a very conservation attitude toward any excess of materials, energy, and labor. So come visit.
Hello, Jambo. My name is Mweru Mwihia. I'm an architect based in Nairobi, Kenya. What would you say are resilient cities? Resilient cities are cities that are able to absorb the shock that hits it. My city, unfortunately, is not so resilient.
Resilience in architectural design and urban planning. What would we understand? We think that this approach of long-lasting architectural design, robust design, architecture that gets patina, that is flexible to adapt to different uses over the time, is the real goal to approach to build architecture for the next generation as well.
Resilience is when something is able to adapt, to continue working although circumstances change. It relates to cities because climate change is testing the resilience of how we design and occupy cities. We need to think about changing rain patterns, about raising water, about different kinds of heat patterns, storms and other natural phenomena that are changing as a result of the climate emergency and sustainability challenges of our time.
Resilience is the ability of nations, cities and communities to withstand shocks and stresses from natural hazards, extreme weather events, from the impacts of climate change, but also social and economic shocks, and to recover from these shocks and to adapt to their impacts. This means for the built environment and for cities, it means stronger infrastructure, safer housing, and well-prepared communities.
Resilience stands for the ability to survive difficult situations in life without lasting impairment. The opposite of resilience is vulnerability. If our cities are destroyed by natural disasters such as heavy rainfall events, and we do nothing about it, even though we ourselves have caused climate change through our actions, We as planning professions must responsibly implement climate adaptation strategies wherever it makes sense.
There's a new norm that we need to consider when it comes to designing our cities and built environment. Bandied about these days in the architectural profession and academia, the topic of resilience has gone from a fringe concept to a mainstream initiative. Urban resilience is the ability of cities to endure, transform, and adapt to the stresses and strains brought about by rapid environmental, technological, social, and demographic changes, or social economic crisis. As our cities grow and diversify, urban resilience has become more relevant. More than ever, we as architects and urban designers need to be more inclusive and work with our community to initiate ways to mitigate extreme conditions and disturbances. We know that we cannot design for every unpredictable event, but we can make sure our buildings and cities are better able to weather these disruptions and bounce back afterwards. We need more resilient design, not as a fashionable buzzword, but out of necessity for our long-term survival. For the Seoul Biennale Global Studio, students from Hanyang University ERICA Campus explored how to foster a network of sustainable communities and improve social cohesion by examining how the built environment in cities can be adapted to address urban resilience. These in-depth research and insightful design proposals reflect on key architectural and urban issues affecting our cities and how to respond to these opportunities and challenges nowadays. Prevalent nowadays, how to live with COVID-19 is an extraordinary challenge for all cities around the world. The number of infected cases in the world has exceeded 200 million, and Korea is experiencing a fourth wave with an increase in number of patients every day. As the COVID-19 cases continue to surge, hospitals in Seoul are overwhelmed with a crisis-level shortage of beds. How can cities deal with a lack of hospital rooms during the pandemic? How can cities be resilient and adapt to such a global turmoil? Patients who are infected can experience a range of clinical manifestations, ranging from asymptomatic to critical illness. There are 5 levels of illness severity, and patients at all levels must be quarantined. But is there a way for patients who are asymptomatic and have mild symptoms continue their daily lives? Their lives do not need to be put on hold due to COVID. Could there be a mobile quarantine pod which travels around the city, go to the restaurants for food pickup, or go see a movie in a drive-in movie theater? Alcovet Clinic as a prototype was proposed as an urban intervention throughout the city. The Alcovet Clinic integrates a vertical spine for the testing and treatment center with a docking station on the periphery for the mobile quarantine pods. At the top of the clinic is a drone station where the drones will transport the testing kits to the labs. These vertical clinics, located in different parts of the city, are accessible to everyone. After the pandemic ends, these centers can still be utilized as a drone or an AV station, an infrastructural need for the immediate future. Due to the rapid economic growth and urbanization in Korea, gentrification has recently drawn great social attention. With gentrification comes rent escalation, and consequently a community is displaced. People who are facing economic hardship, like factory and immigrant workers, and artists who cannot afford high rent, are displaced and are forced to seek cheaper living options. In a way, these groups, a displaced community due to social and economic factors, are seeking economic refuge within the city. Fabric with narrow alleys, and it is a city where the old fabric is integrated with the new modern urban blocks. Mulledong was developed to be an industrial area with factories, and housing was built for the workers, specifically called Yongdan Housing District. Initially, it was planned with a single-level housing with courtyard spaces, but with time and economic development, these open spaces were built up to accommodate the needs of the factories. Nowadays, some housing exists in Yongdan, but most of the houses were converted to steel factories. An influx of artists who have been ousted by gentrification have now settled in Mule. During the day, Muledong is a bustling place where ironworkers are busy working, and at night, the artists come out to work and play after the ironworkers are gone. Is there a way where the ironworkers, the artists, and the residents can coexist? How can a disadvantaged neighborhood foster a sustainable community? Modular and flexible steel structures attached to existing buildings can be easily assembled to accommodate their different uses. For the residents, these modules can be organized to create a shared kitchen, dining, and living room. For the artists and steel workers, there are shared studios and meeting rooms on the roof of buildings. For everyone, the ground level becomes more public and collective. These small yet inclusive design approaches exemplify community building by ensuring public spaces are truly accessible to all. With housing prices escalating in Seoul, it is difficult to find affordable housing, especially for certain individuals with no financial means. For most single young adults, living in a goshiwon is the most affordable housing solution. With a footprint of 2 meter by 2 meter, a living space of 4 square meter with only a bed, a desk, and a small closet is considered below residential standards. What they share are the bathroom, kitchen, and living room, and laundry, and there is barely any social interaction. One can say that a goshiwon is a type of microhousing in Korea. According to the Ministry of Health and Welfare in Korea, the minimum living standard area for a single-person household should be at least 14 square meters. What matters is not the 14 square meters, but their living environment and conditions. What is needed is a sense of community. In addition to the 14 square meter rooms, there should be other shared or communal programs catered for the single living. To reduce the construction cost and time, precast concrete modules are proposed for the new goshiwon in Taeak-dong. These modules can be organized and assembled on the site while creating flexible and varied unit types. There are 4 types of units, which are all in the area of 14 square meters. Single floor unit, vertical 2-floor unit, vertical 2-floor unit with a balcony, and a vertical loft unit. These housing units are organized around a shared living room, dining, and bathroom. Public programs like a cafe and gym are on the ground floor, and startup offices and studio spaces for the residents are on the 2nd floor. Unlike a typical goshiwon, Millennial Village introduces a better integrated minimal living for the young generation. With excessive usage of digital devices nowadays, there is a need to escape from the digital services, such as smartphones, computers, and social media. Especially in Korea with the fastest internet connection, people are constantly connected. Research shows that people are addicted to the internet and their digital screens. Too much screen time can take a toll on one's well-being, mental and physical health, and that is why unplugging from the digital environment can help improve one's quality of life. What everyone needs is a digital detox. To escape from the digital world, a meditation refuge is proposed on Palm Island in the Han River, physically close to the city but psychologically far away. Palm Island is a natural sanctuary, uninhabited except for a variety of bird and plant species. It seems an ideal location for a meditation refuge surrounded by nature and solitude. The new urban retreat for those in need of healing resembles a modern Korean hanok structure. A wooden bridge leads the visitors to the lobby where smartphones and other digital devices are checked in. Visitors then move up vertically to experience an analog world, meditation spaces, yoga classes, cafes, and finally an observation deck at the top. In the center, a tall wooden lattice structure with a graceful hanok roof, the main event space, frames the landscapes of Palm Island. To further highlight nature, birdhouses are integrated with the building columns. Like a traditional hanok, the new meditation refuge, blurring the boundary of indoor and outdoor, is a new urban escape for those in need of a digital detox. Throughout history, the movement of populations in search of better lives has been the norm rather than the exception. Today, people are experiencing unprecedented levels of displacement, exceptional and certainly not the norm. Conflicts rage on in countries like Syria and Myanmar, sea levels rise, and our society struggles for breath. This planet is undergoing massive upheaval, and its people twofold. These disquieting human migrations, these major crises, are coming to be recognized as some of the foundational, most challenges of the 21st century. As architects and planners, how can we build cities that are adaptive and resilient in serving these displaced populations? Through the media, we are seeing a clearer and clearer image of refugees who must seek asylum in countries foreign to them. But how can we learn more about these people? What can we do to make our neighborhoods more accepting? To address these complex issues, we examined the concept of refuge at a micro scale. We looked at how to welcome these guests into our communities, to open our homes, and to open our doors. The movie Monsters, Inc. depicts two disparate worlds of monsters and humans, divided by closed doors. The children fear the monsters, and the monsters fear the children even more. One day, a little girl, Boo, enters the monsters' world through a closet door, and two monsters she encounters realize things might not be as they seem. In this story, a door is a metaphor for the transition and passageway from one place to another. We are interested in exploring the use of a door as a threshold and a place of encounter. Designing a shelter for the displaced populations is an architectural challenge, but we should address it, for it is an extremely prevalent topic in our world today. Instead of designing a refugee shelter in a literal manner, we tackle the topic on a more conceptual level. The shelter is comprised of 28 doors with patterns and ornamentations depicting different cultures from around the world. As one enters the shelter through the pivoting doors, there should be no distinction between refugee or local. There is no wall nor boundary. Everyone should feel equal. Visitors may be from countries that are hosting refugees or from countries that refugees flee from. To each visitor, the topic of refugee is pervasive and relevant, but there exist different points of views. The shelter provides a neutral space for people to explore, reflect, encounter, and engage.